use your time to prepare.
I think we should allow a lot of free flow.
You join us where the guests are
is that?
cheekily berating my lack of preparation skills. Welcome to the Friends2Gether podcast, the podcast on our intergenerational project even.
Project.
The third time. I can't even say intergenerational now. Intergenerational project aimed at bringing 18 to 25-year-olds and 55 plus together in skill sharing and story sharing endeavours. You join us today. It's the middle of March, and as normal British people do, we're talking about the weather, and non-British people as well. Do you consider yourself to be a great Brit, or are you an expat still?
I don't care.
If I had to summarise how you would describe yourself, I bet you would say I'm a person of the world.
That's it.
Yeah, there you go. You're a person.
Person of another world.
Yeah.
Those are the opinions of his wife there, and not my opinions. I should introduce who's in today. We've got, so going around the table in a clockwise fashion, we've got Jack. So
that's me.
Hello, Jack. You right?
Hello, John.
Yeah, you good? All good?
I'm almost Molly, but I'm not.
Quaffed your crisps, ready to roll. And we've got EJ.
Hello.
Next to him. Aloha. You right? Good week in paradise so far? Yeah?
It's all right.
Yeah?
It's all right.
And then we have M next to you.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, M. You right?
Yeah.
The citizen of the world is M there. Then we have another citizen of the world in Sonia. Say hello to the assembled millions, Sonia.
Hello, assembled millions.
You're right there. Now, today, the reason that the guests were berating my lack of planning is that I haven't actually planned what we're going to talk about. I've got a few little ideas here, but there's no general theme of the top of the podcast. I've just got lots of little mini topics which I thought I've made little notes here that I would like to get your feedback and opinions on. Now, I said to Jack before we started rolling that I've just started a big, rather large project, but don't worry, it's not one that's going to involve me in too much work. I'm starting to watch The Sopranos again. So when I started watching The Sopranos the first time, I never finished it. I think I got to like season 4 and I kind of got bored and just drifted away from it. So everyone raves about how good it was and what happened at the end and what a good scene it was and stuff. So I thought, right, it's one of my bucket list to do things. I'm going to watch it again. So I've got the whole context. I'm not going to pick it up from season 4 because I won't remember any of the characters or anything that's gone on. So I started it from season 1 again, and it is ruddy good, isn't it? Like James Gandolfini's acting, and the whole premise behind it, that there's a mob boss seeing a psychiatrist. I suppose we should say no spoilers if you don't want to know what happens in Sopranos.
That's just taster.
General, yeah, it's a general.
So The Sopranos is not about a group of female opera singers.
No.
I thought it was the sequel to The Three Tenors.
As seen on Netflix.
Love that.
HBO did The Sopranos.
Great.
Yeah, so it's about a gangster who's started seeing a psychologist, and he's worried about that getting out and the damage it will do his reputation if he's found, because they're all very tight-lipped and obviously secrets getting out, and if he's telling things to a psychiatrist, he worries about how it'll affect his power and his standing within the mob industry. Spoiler alert, it's about the mob. And it's very good, and I've started it again, so it got me thinking. I consider The Wire to be the best ever TV programme that I've seen. And so I would be interested in finding out from you guys what you enjoyed the most. What's your favourite TV programme and why? If you could kind of give a recommendation as to why you enjoyed it so much, what the characters and the plot and the subtext of it, or what you enjoyed so much about it.
What was it about The Wire that you enjoyed?
I think it's just the way how clever it was, how each season focused on a different aspect of the city. So it's set around a drug-addled city. It's not New York, because it's New... shows how much I was paying attention.
New Orleans.
I think it might. I don't know if it's New Orleans. It's near New York. Anyway, it's just down Baltimore. It's Baltimore. So it's set in Baltimore, which is near New York, pretty much. They keep going about New York crew in The Wire. So it's set in Baltimore. It's about the drug culture, and each season focuses on one of the key elements of the society. So the first season is the actual drug dealers themselves. Then you've got the docks where they're smuggling the drugs into the country, the drugs and the ladies of the night. Then the next, all the way through it kind of focuses on the police investigating them. But each season it's got a different aspect. So one's the newspapers, it focuses on the newspapers. One focuses on the politicians, and then last season focuses on the kids. And it sort of completes the arc nicely. So all the characters in the first season, that were all the drug dealers and all the drug lords, the kids, you could sort of see them becoming the same characters in the first. They were in the first season. It beautifully completed the arc, but told the drug battle from every different angle: the police, the drugs, the hospital,
is it chronological?
Rehab and stuff like that. No,
is the whole thing? No, it goes back on the same events.
Focused on a particular group involved in that,
but of the same events. Or
no. It's moved forward, and the same. Okay. The characters they'd introduced in the previous seasons would be intertwined in the new season and the new group they focus on. Yeah. So like the newspaper guys and the politicians, but all our older characters from the drug dealers in the first season and the police in the second season, and the dockers in the third season, they would all be intertwined in as it moved forward as a story. Then it all perfectly wound its way back around to an arc, and it was really good. Like the dialogue and the themes that it dealt with, like the addictions and all the crime surrounding the drug industry and stuff like that. So I would not recommend it highly enough. And anyone who hasn't seen The Wire, I think you should watch it. I think it's 5 seasons, so it's not too much of an outlay, and they're sort of hour episodes, but it's really good. Idris Elba's in it, but you wouldn't know English in it.
He's he's that big.
He's Stringer Bell, the number 2 in command of the drug dens. And one of the seasons focuses on the battle for the corners as well. You know, the 2 big drug gangs that have been introduced in the previous season, and they have a big battle to try and, you know, who's in charge of the certain corners and the areas and stuff like that. It's really, really good. Anyone else seen The Wire? No.
I've seen bits of it.
Watch it. Maybe we can make it a Friends Together project. We watch the first episode of The Wire and then review it next week or something. Would you up for that, Em, or not?
You know, I'm not very keen to watch television. I don't watch television, but
I'll tell you what if EJ watches it and then mimes like what's going on to you or something like that, or you could write a report.
Expressive dance.
You know what? She can speak about herself.
Yeah.
You allow me.
Let me think about it.
The dynamics of marriage, beautifully exposed on the Friends Together podcast. Jack, I'm surprised that you've not seen The Wire. I thought you'd thoroughly enjoy that. Anyway, I digress. So the reason for this conversation was because I am always looking for recommendations from other people as to good TV shows that I might have missed at the time, or something that was culturally quite important. So is there anything that you, when someone says to you, what's your favourite TV show, if you were to recommend one to someone to watch, what would it be?
What comes to mind? Well, I like a lot of like comedy TV shows. That don't necessarily like Peep Show and anything involving Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie.
Jeeves and Wooster. Did you like Jeeves and Wooster?
I haven't seen that actually.
Oh, you've got to watch it. It's based on the original P.G. Wodehouse books, but it's Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie. My problem in the main characters is brilliant.
My problem with TV shows is they do suck you in, and you feel like it kind of defines your life at that period of time. I find so that's why I'm a bit.
Stephen Fry is brilliant. He's like the butler who like runs the life of the buffoon.
Stephen Fry. Oh, right, nice. Yeah,
really good.
I should probably watch it.
Yeah, it's really good.
What do people say? Oh, like you must watch this show. It's like along with all the
I'll be more inclined not
50 others that I've been told I must watch.
I've just put you all off The Wire for life, haven't I? You've got to watch The Wire.
Well, I think the Radio Times had 40 must-watch shows of this year. It's like, I don't think you would have time.
40 most-watched shows.
That's what they had at the beginning of the year. Anyway, what I want to recommend actually is Utopia. Has anyone's seen it?
Give us a short summary. Utopia.
Has no one seen it? You
heads
absolutely must watch it. Otherwise, you're not a human being.
Is it the one about where the universe is a donut or something? Is that the one?
No. You're talking about... No, we talked about this film.
Yeah, the film, wasn't there?
That's whatever it's called. Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's a film.
Yeah.
And Utopia is a Channel 4 drama. I think it was like a couple of seasons. Absolutely loved it. It's about... it's essentially about this sort of shadowy elite that wishes to keep the population in check. And
sounds pertinent.
But it's brilliant. The mastermind is highly autistic.
Yeah.
But he's very relatable as a character. You actually sympathise a lot with the baddies in the programme, which they do brilliantly. And part of the idea is, are there potentially too many people on the earth that these people actually have something to, a point to make? And you're essentially, you're basically like drawn into all these sort of like moral dilemmas about problems on the earth. And the characters are really great. I forget what their names are, but there's all sorts of brilliant characters, and it's just it just sucks you in. And there's one particular scene actually, which is on the same theme of a woman who's got a child, and she's like telling the main baddie like, well, they've just sort of randomly struck up a conversation in the bus station, and she's saying, he's saying, why don't you fly to your destination, which is somewhere across Europe? And she says, no, I care about the carbon emissions. It's like, I'm going to take the coach instead. Yeah. So then he goes, well, why did you have a kid then? And then it gets a bit dark. And he goes off on like a massive rant about how it's so irresponsible for her to have a kid. And she's made it into like, does she really care about the climate, or is she just posturing?
Which is very pertinent because of everything that's going on with Taylor Swift at the moment. Because some guy who follows aeroplanes around the world, she was doing all these, like, you've got to save the planet, all these things, and he was just going, right, you flew here to here to here to here, and he keeps posting where her private jet was going all the time,
right,
just to show how many emissions she was using, basically digging her out. And he shamed her so much that she's got rid of her private plane. Well, she says she's got rid of her private plane.
Which is a shame, because the elite are such. They're much better people than us, so they should be allowed to.
Yeah. They fly all around the world to tell us not to indulge in climate change.
I mean, if you have a certain amount of millions and you consider us plebs, you should be allowed to fly around wherever you like.
Yeah, the little people. It's ridiculous, isn't it? We have to save our plastic bags and stuff, but they're allowed to fly around the world telling us to save our plastic bags.
Saving the planet, one plastic bag at a time.
One private jet at a time. But yeah, this guy is he's kind of seen as like a whistleblower of some sort, because he does it to lots of celebrities, like keeps showing how much carbon emissions they're using, despite being massive hypocrites and going on about global warming all the time.
Yeah. Who else is there? There's Leonardo DiCaprio, isn't there?
Yeah.
He's achieved a lot.
I think we should start off with the government.
Or just any one of them.
I say shoot them all. Shoot them.
Those are the opinions of EJ, and they're not necessarily shared, but they may be shared by the opinions of the host of this podcast. So what's your take on global warming then? David Bellamy, I think we mentioned last week. Not personally, but that's the reason he's been ousted by BBC, because he's got controversial views on global warming. He doesn't think it's real. Yeah. And so he's been deplatformed by the BBC. That's why they won't have him on any shows anymore, because he's been very outspoken, saying it's all a load of rubbish and that it's just the Earth naturally, coming for its not natural cycles and stuff. So they won't have him on anymore.
On what you're saying, I mean, the last time I checked, we still are entitled to our opinion.
Mm. Who's telling those scandalous rumours there? But
supposedly we do have free speech.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
Free speech is the basis of Western culture, isn't it? Really, I was watching.
We have free speech as long as you say what they want you to say.
What they want you to say, yeah, that's.
I think the argument against censorship, really, I think the best argument against it is that it doesn't actually prevent people believing certain things. It actually makes it worse.
It does.
It's essentially, if people are believing that certain things which are incorrect, let's presume that they think the Earth is definitely getting colder or something. I don't know what theories have, or if the Earth is flat. Well, actually, it's not going to help if they feel like there's something being suppressed.
It's a big secret, and it's being suppressed, and you're not allowed to talk about it.
Then it only flames those. Essentially, I think the truth is nearly always somewhere in between the predominant paradigm and those who are coming up with a different theory. And I think, truth doesn't come from insisting that it's either on or off, that either something is true or
it goes back to EJ's point, doesn't it? The more powerful, they decide that their opinion's more worthy than ours, so that's going to be the official narrative. But who's to say that our opinion is more prevalent or more important than theirs?
Who says what's right and what's wrong? Yeah. If somebody wants to believe the Earth is flat, they can believe. They can't prove that it's not. Unless you go yourself and look, Do you believe they've been in space?
That's the basis of libertarianism, isn't it? Each to their own. Everyone can believe whatever they want to believe. Free country, free speech, and stuff like that. Yeah. That's the way I look at things. I'm not going to squash people and say you're wrong. You can't say that. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, each to their own. Whatever it takes to get you through the night is one of my favourite sayings. So Utopia, and it's all based around that, is it?
Yes.
That sounds interesting, actually.
Yeah.
On Channel 4, so it'd be on 4OD, will it?
It was ages ago.
That jazz. Okay. Utopia. Was it
pre
or post?
It might be on 4OD.
Pandemic.
It might be,
lockdown.
Yeah. What? Sorry.
Was it pre or post lockdown?
No. This was like 15 years ago or something.
Oh wow! That long ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think I think I had maybe only one season or 2 seasons. And then it was supposed to carry on.
Who was in it? Anyone we know?
To be honest, I'm really not good at actors. I think there were a couple of famous people in it. But I can't quite picture them. Their names aren't coming. Sorry about that.
EJ, you're not a great TV watcher, are you?
Not particularly. No? I watch some TV, but I don't really watch. I mean, the last for me to say something that I watched a whole series of was Supernatural.
Okay. What's the summary of that?
About 2 brothers.
Can you not really talk about what it's about? No?
No, I can. No. Basically, it's about good and evil.
Yeah.
2 brothers. One dies and goes to hell, and then gets let out of hell.
Yeah.
And it's to do with demons and angels. And
yeah. That sounds interesting, actually.
But you can watch each episode without having watched the whole thing.
Yeah. That sounds like there's a thing that
like
called Good Omens. Have you had a Good Omens? Yeah, similar to that. Who wrote Good Omens?
That's a book, isn't it, originally?
Yeah. Gaiman. His name
is it Neil Gaiman? Isn't it?
Yeah,
that sounds right.
That's right. Yeah, it's Good Omens, and it's got Neil Tennant, the guy that was Doctor Who, anyway. David Tennant
and Michael Sheen.
Yeah, so that's a similar plot actually to that. It's like a good angel and a bad angel causing hell.
Yeah,
but theirs is done in more of a comedic way.
This has the writer's take on a lot of like biblical literature, mixing it up in his version, if you like.
Yeah, I heard a thing yesterday that if you added up all of the text or speech of Jesus in the Bible, it only adds up to like 2 hours, something like that. And if you added up all of the Beatles recorded music, I think it only adds up to 100 hours or something like that. Some stat they were giving me on this thing. Okay. If you were to say that the words that Jesus spoke in the Bible, it would only all adds up to 2 hours across all of the testaments and stuff like that.
Wow.
The difference is if those 2 hours of what Jesus said, you can study for many lifetimes. Yeah. Whereas I presume the Beatles, it doesn't take so much studying. To put it politely.
Is that praiseworthy of Jesus?
Yeah, we'll get that put on a quote on a t-shirt, I think. Yeah. Yeah. Did you watch Supernatural?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, any good?
You know,
enjoyed
depends.
It? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain characters that they change, they are morph.
From an angel to a devil and all that jazz. Well, I think wasn't the devil an angel originally? Wasn't according to the Bible?
An archangel. Yeah.
You seem quite knowledgeable about this stuff. Were you religious when you were young still? When you were growing up, or just learn stuff?
Yeah, probably from when I was young.
Yeah.
But
did you go to a religious school?
No.
I went to St George's School in Amersham, but I still don't know what the Lord's Prayer was like. Someone asked me what the Lord's Prayer was, and I was like, considering I went to a St George's Church of England school, they didn't really teach us that, really, which is odd. I always thought.
Well, they didn't teach you the words.
I learnt it.
Well, they probably did, but
you didn't listen.
You didn't know me. It probably went in one ear and out the other ear, and I wasn't listening, or I was thinking about my guitar or something at the time.
Ironically, I learnt it through song.
Did you? Yeah. So phonetically for a song?
No. As in through psalms, basically.
Yeah.
The choir that we're singing.
Isn't it in Metallica as well? That song, there's a Metallica song where he says,
"That's not the Lord's Prayer."
That bit at the beginning of
that was a children's prayer. As I lay down my head to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep.
You know,
that one.
So you're a good poet. Yeah, that one, yeah. Is that not the Lord's Prayer, no? See, that's how little I know of what the Lord's Prayer is. Sonia.
Oh.
Do you know, we're talking about things that we don't know about.
I'm going to ask you to recite the Lord's Prayer word for word.
Oh, that's easy.
So there you go. Everyone, apparently it's easy for other people, but not for me. What TV programme would you recommend to someone if you had to...
I have to confess, I haven't really watched a series like that. I think the most recent thing I've seen was Traitors. That was about the only thing that kind of captured my imagination.
As featured on a previous website, because the fella that won it lived in Marlow, didn't he? Is that like a reality TV thing, though? Is it?
Yeah, but it's got a slightly more cerebral twist to it, which is quite...
Is it the same as those programmes where they give you like £100 and you have to disappear for like 30 days and try and get as far away from without getting traced? Is it one of those kind of things? Give me the premise of Traitors then.
No,
do you ever play Mafia as a sort of party game? Or Werewolves? Have you heard of those?
Oh, describe it. Two of you are werewolves and the others are... Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so isn't it the case that it's much larger?
I've never played Werewolves, but I guess that...
How does that translate to a TV programme then? Like, they just sat around in a circle, like pretending to be traitors?
They live with each other for a month, don't they?
Yeah, they're given tasks to do.
And do they know that they're the traitor?
Well, yeah, they know... The traitors know that they're traitors right from the very beginning. Right. So it's up to the other people in the group to suss out who's the traitors and who are...
So what you're saying
is
like
faithfuls.
Carrot in a box with that comedian that we looked at last week. What's the comedian's name?
Who's that, sorry?
Carrot in the Box, Jobby, the guy.
That was Molly's one, wasn't it? I forget his name. But yeah,
the one that's passed away recently. Yes, it's like a glorified carrot in a box, and they're all blagging each other.
But what I would say to anybody that's out there, don't waste your time watching everything, because I actually went back and binge watched lots of them.
Yeah.
So I would recommend watching.
Don't waste your time watching
it.
That's going on
but I did it.
DVD case. That is.
I'd watch.
Wasting your time watching it. Just watch the last one. It's fine. Find out.
If you want to cut to the chase, if your time is precious and your time poor and whatever, I'd watch episode 2 of the UK series, and then go straight to watch episode 3 of the Australian series.
You've given this a lot of thought.
And that will give you the two like scenarios of what can actually happen. But what is absolutely fascinating, I think, is to see how these people that go in there full of sort of, oh yes, I'm going to suss it out and I'm going to work out who it is, they all slowly become paranoid after a certain time, with absolutely no proof at all, that somebody is a traitor or they're not, and they're absolutely convinced, and they're not only that, they're trying to convince the other people around them that, you know,
what do they do, stick a sticker on their butt or something if they think that they're the traitor? And like,
no, they have little quiet chats and things, so that's what the cameras...
Are you the traitor? No.
If they figure out who the traitor is, do they get to hang, drawn and quarter them?
No, not quite. Not quite.
For someone that doesn't watch a lot of TV, you're watching the English version and the Australian version.
Well, this is it. I did actually binge watch. I actually went back and binge watched
the ethics of these programs a little bit, doesn't it? Like,
oh yeah, absolutely. I hope these people get counselling afterwards, because as I said, without giving too much away, especially when it comes to like the final 5 of each series, it's pretty strong stuff, really. That they're, you know, the psychology.
Maybe we should do that in the podcast.
So strange, because it's literally just a game.
5 bits of paper and one of them's got traitor on it, and then the other one's a traitor, and you have to work out.
That's where you usually have a host. You have one host. One person's the host.
What am I?
Yeah, what's that?
I'll be the host.
Yeah. Well, you can.
Yeah, you can play it being the host.
Yeah.
It wouldn't
work being the host. I've never done it before, but
I would be absolutely useless at something like that, I think.
What if you're the traitor or whatever?
I don't know. When you actually see people doing it, and it's like, oh my God, I really couldn't do that. I really couldn't say those things that they are and be that convincing.
Is it like that thing where you got that bit of paper on your head and it's got like Muhammad Ali and you got to ask him how many questions?
No, it's way more intense than that.
Oh no, much more intense. Yeah,
more carrot in the box than...
Yeah, basically you get accused when you're not. Or whatever.
Yeah, so you have
accused
to defend
of what?
yourself.
Accused of being at each basically close of day, in inverted commas, the the whole group has to, they just have a free conversation, and is this how it works in traitors as well?
Yeah.
Essentially you eventually have to come to you vote on who
you vote who you think,
and if they get 6 all for
then that person gets voted out.
And then they were right.
Yeah.
They're out, are they?
That person gets voted out, but then they have to stand there in front of the others and then declare whether they were actually a traitor or not. And it's at that point that they suddenly realise that if they have actually voted a traitor out, there's lots of celebrating and whatever.
Yeah.
But if they've voted somebody out by mistake, then it's like, well, who is it? Because it's somebody else in this room.
And they all get the money as a group, do they, if they get it right? Or it all comes down to one as it whittles away?
Whoever's... If there are...
Can you do it in an Australian accent, please? I'm watching the Australian version.
If there's only faithfuls left at the end of it, it gets divided amongst them. But if there is one traitor left... Yeah.
So that dude in Marlow, he won the whole thing on his own, did he?
It goes all to them.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
So it's in their interest to try and vote the traitors
kind of
out.
And Barrymore thing from Strike It Lucky.
Because you think, this is a bit like watching paint dry, but actually as it goes on, it's like, oh my goodness, it is quite gripping actually to see the stories that people come up with. And
so can we
the little tactics.
Confirm? Are you recommending this or are you not recommending this?
Oh no, I would. But as I said, episode 2.
Your quote was I wouldn't bother watching it or something like that.
Of the Australian
wouldn't bother
version.
watching most of it. Just the crap one. Episode 2 of the English version and 3 of
what I would say, though,
version.
is the Australian version, the prize money is a huge amount of money. It's like $250,000. We only get about 120,000 in the UK.
Yeah, that's still
so how do they work that one out?
Okay.
Anyway, so that's kind of what I... Yeah.
Now, we're round the table again. The second talking point on my list here. Now, I was saying to Jack earlier, when I was going for a run last year, I don't know if anyone knows the local area, but in Little Chalfont, there's a big field. It's called Westwoods. It's Westwood Woods, we call it. And I was doing my jog and I was coming back up. It was at dusk, because that just before it's getting dark at the night. And I saw coming out of the woods a massive cat. I thought it was a deer at first, but then I could tell it was walking on its front legs like a cat. And I was like, is that a big cat? And I was kind of obviously stopped running and stuff like that. And I sort of approached it with a bit of caution. And I could work out it wasn't a dog. It was too big for a dog. And it wasn't a deer because it was kind of walking on its front legs. So I think it was like a big cat.
It was walking on its front legs.
This is good radio.
These bag ones in the air.
I could see it.
Or was it doing a handstand?
I could see it swaying its front, walking like a cat, basically. A deer doesn't doesn't swing its front legs, does it? If you know what I mean. Does that make any sense at all? Like a deer doesn't swing with it. It walks like a cat, basically. It was walking like a
maybe it was practicing for a musical.
It wasn't a dog.
How do you know it wasn't a dog?
Because it was going too slow for a dog. It wasn't just like knocking around, peeing on things and barking. It was just like it was creeping through the undergrowth like a cat, basically. And as I was getting nearer, it was walking like a cat. It's difficult to describe. And I was with somebody at the time, and my story was corroborated because there was someone with me at the end, and we were like, we better keep our distance here. That looks like a big cat. And then I googled it when I got home with it, and there'd been lots of big cat sightings in the area in those particular woods. It's a sandy coloured thing. You may mock, but it was a big cat. So I went back the next day to see if there's any sign of any kind of like where he'd eaten something or buried it. But then I thought a big cat wouldn't it wouldn't be so crude as to leave a trail, would it? Like bury
no, he'd clear up after himself.
Put it in the bin, do the washing up, put it in the recycling bin afterwards. Yeah. So I went and there was no sign of it there, but it was too big for a dog and it walked like a cat. It wasn't a deer. It was like a sandy coloured thing. Mm-hmm. And there's lots of sightings of a similar sized cats in this area. And per se, if you go on the Bucks Free Press website, there's lots of big cat sightings in and around Bucks, which they attribute to in the 50s and 60s. A lot of richer folk used to have big cats in there, and then they changed the law so they just released them all into the wild, but so they didn't get into trouble. That's the theory behind it anyway. Some of them survive, some of them don't. There's a big cat of Dartmoor, isn't there, or Bodmin or something as well.
The beast of Bodmin Moor. Yeah.
So my question is, have you ever had any unusual animal sightings, any big cat sightings out and about?
I did about 6 months ago.
Come on, hit us with it.
I was driving through Jordan's. It was late at night.
Yeah.
And there's a road that runs up between the A40 and Jordan's. Yeah. And it's a very straight road. And I could see in the distance something dark walking across the road. And I thought, it's a deer. And as it crossed the road, I was approaching it. It turned its head, and all the eyes were they glowed like they were like gold.
Yeah. In your headlights.
In the headlights. Yeah. By the time I got there, it had gone.
Yeah, scared off.
But it was definitely...
Did it walk like a cat? Or like an Egyptian.
Yeah, it was definitely, and it wasn't a muntjac either.
No.
It wasn't.
Yeah, you can tell because they're taller legs, aren't they? Big, tall, skinny legs. There's bigger bodies with these sandy coloured cats.
Yeah.
Well, muntjacs are tiny, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, they have skinny legs. You're right.
Yeah.
But I did Google. Because I thought, well, surely that reflection is a dead giveaway.
What did it say?
I haven't been able to.
Have there been any photos taken by people? I wonder.
I don't know. Well, I mean, I was on my own, so I wouldn't have, and it was, like really, really dark. That road is unlit anyway. So, but I know what you mean about the way it walked.
Funnily enough, I was talking about that road earlier to somebody because that's where Ozzy Osbourne lives.
Yeah, along that road.
He does at the bottom there. It's all flooded, isn't it? And he lives at the bottom there where it's all flooded.
Yeah.
Maybe it was him.
Wow.
Maybe it was stumbling across the road and
the Prince of Darkness.
Eyes was caught in the headlights.
Prince of Darkness, yeah.
The Prince of Darkness, yeah. He was just walking back from the pub, maybe, to his home. I think he's got a bad neck injury at the back at the moment, isn't he? So I don't know how I know they're intending on moving back to the UK to retire, but I don't know how they'll get him across if he's got a bad back and bad neck. I suppose in first class is not really that much of a problem. Has anyone ever been on first class?
No.
Jack?
What, on a flight?
Yeah.
No.
No,
not yet.
Not yet, so I like his style, his ambition there. Yeah, so I guess, but it can't be good for someone who's got a bad back and a bad neck to put him on a flight.
I thought first class you can lie down anyway, can't you? Haven't they got those
maybe
sleeper,
it depends
sleeper seats?
I think. I thought you meant the bed ones. It depends on the flight. I think
I have been on a flight that was so undersubscribed that I was able to lie down on all the chairs. And
wow.
Best sleep ever.
Where are you going?
Coming from Norway.
Oh, Norway. Going from the cold.
Nice.
Mind you, I imagine Ozzy Osbourne's probably got a private jet, hasn't he? So they probably just stick a bed on it and stick his own bed on it, one of these recliners or whatever, and so he's comfortable and get him over here. He says that's the worst thing he ever did. He wishes he'd have had a second opinion when that doctor said about performing surgery on his neck. And he's spoken to people afterwards. They said it was unnecessary and stuff. And it's pretty much crippled him. And
too intrusive.
He's
What a shame.
Yeah, and I think Sharon is suing the doctors and stuff.
Yeah.
But spinal injury is not something you shouldn't muck around with.
No.
Really. I've never had any surgery, luckily. Touch wood. Is there any wood around?
Scratch your head.
Scratch my head. Yeah. I don't think I've broken a bone either. I think I've maybe at cricket broke a finger. Has anyone broken a bone?
Yeah, I've broken toes.
No, you guys haven't either.
We've done well here, haven't we?
Broken toes.
Yeah, I've broken 2 in one foot and 1 in the other.
What, skating days?
Yeah, it played havoc with my... Because I couldn't get my boots on.
Go on. There's a story here.
Is there?
What was that? What
no. I was just asking him if he's ever broken anything.
Okay.
Maybe it's easy to say what you haven't broken.
That
Was he a
would be
bit
my
injury
answer.
prone, is he?
What? There's a lot of bones that you haven't broken.
Yeah, but there are too many things wrong with, my bones and too many.
Oh, really?
Yeah, too many operations.
Oh, bless you.
Of course, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you set off the alarms when you go through the airports and he's like beeping away at you? Have you got any metal in you?
I have been through my life through strange things like that.
Yeah. Have you guys ever seen any big cats? I'm thinking EJ, no, from the way you were mocking
I haven't
me.
seen, not a big cat, but I have a story.
Come on.
When I was living abroad, I was coming back one night and there used to be, stray dogs around, but they were always friendly. And I was near the entrance to the apartment and this group of dogs I'd never seen before were on the opposite side of the road. It was a small road and they were all black, all about the same size.
Yeah.
And they looked at me and the one in front just ran to attack me.
Wow.
And the other 4 or 5 followed. And I was lucky I was wearing leather trousers and boots. And still, as it grabbed my leg, it left teeth marks in my leg. And I hit with my bag. And they just suddenly disappeared. And they were never, ever seen again.
Yeah.
And many people said that maybe they were something evil.
Yeah.
Because they had never been seen before and they were never seen again after
Did you have the bite marks the next day or did they disappeared, yeah?
Yeah, I had the teeth marks.
Yeah. Still had the teeth marks, yeah.
Yeah.
And you whacked them with your bag.
Yeah, I hit them
Any
with my
ninja?
bag. Yeah.
You had Sonia's leather trousers on, did you? As featured in the previous podcast. You'd be all right if you ever
Yeah, lucky I was wearing these leather trousers and these Vermac boots. So
you think it was something mystical?
Otherworldly?
I don't know. They were never seen again, and we lived in an area that was like although it was in the city, it was kind of like everyone knew the dogs around that were on the street.
Yeah,
right.
And no one had ever seen those dogs before, and no one saw them again.
Were you on the podcast when Phil told a story about he got attacked by wild dogs once when he was a little boy? I don't know if you were on that particular one.
No.
When he lived in East London, he said he got attacked by these. Was it you? It was you, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Must be something about that. I don't think I've been attacked by.
You get enough together, the pack instinct really does kick in.
Yeah,
interesting.
And there's no, if there's no other outside influences, it really does kick in.
What about these tales of kids who've been raised by wolves? Have you guys come across these?
I've seen a documentary about one that was left to live outside with the chickens and grew up and used to act like a chicken.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it called Chicken Boy?
Like the ancient story about. Do you know the story that the founders of Rome, supposedly is Romulus and Remus, they're the two kids that they were raised by a wolf?
I think that's where is this story in?
That is the story because Romulus and Remus. They are the two that supposedly they found Rome. They were those that, Rome.
That's a legend, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it is mythological, I mean, if you want to believe it or not, it's up to you.
Yeah, I was reading this from a music tuition pedagogue called Suzuki from Japan of last century, who basically was talking about how he doesn't believe that ability should be thought of as innate.
He's the violinist.
He's a violinist, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember the book, Suzuki Changed My Life by Honda.
Right.
That's true, yeah. Sorry, carry on.
He's just saying how basically it's the environment which shapes a kid's learning predominantly. And he uses all sorts of examples, including from nature, about parrots needing to be trained very consistently and quite intensively, and eventually they can speak our sentences. But the example he uses of a human being adapting to its environment in the extreme is these two kids who have been reared by the same mother wolf of 2 and 7 years old when they came back to human society, and they were basically adopted all the behaviours of a wolf, including walking on all fours, eating, using its mouth to as a tool, eating raw meat, sounding like a wolf. I was just reading this and that sounds insane and unbelievable.
But them to learn English and to be able to speak English or whatever language, human language they were learning, could they then converse with the wolf and the human, and then they could tell the human what the wolf was saying?
Part of his point is that the very formative period, he says it's by the age of 5, you've already been formed quite a lot.
So you can't teach this wolf kid to speak like a human?
Well, yeah, you probably
I think there would be a problem with their chords.
Potentially.
Vocal cords,
But to understand at least what a wolf's saying and then what a human's saying, you might be able to
be a translator.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, what are the wolves, like their habits and what they're saying when they howl in a certain way or whatever, or their languages and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like Dr. Dolittle, basically. Talks to the animals.
I was going to say more like the Rosetta Stone of the wolf world, you know.
What's the Rosetta Stone?
Oh, okay.
Go on, tell me the story. This is what this podcast is all about. Okay,
right. It was, I don't know when it was found, but it was a piece of stone, a carving that was found, and it had the same text in Egyptian hieroglyphics that was translated into Greek and into Latin.
Yeah.
And when it was found, it was like the key to like understanding what all the hieroglyphics,
right?
The ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics.
So they had
was all about.
The same text in 3 different languages. Okay,
they realised what they actually had here was a direct translation of what the ancient hieroglyphics was from Greek and Latin.
Yeah.
So.
And when was that found?
I can't remember, but it was
I want
some
dates,
time
specific
ago.
dates.
Yeah. I don't know. You'll have to. I mean, if we had lovely Molly here, she'd be able to check on her device, wouldn't she?
She would be able to.
So anyway, that's
what's it called? The Rosetta
Stone. Rosetta Stone. Yeah, Rosetta Stone.
Anyone ever seen it? Is it in a museum somewhere? Or?
I think it's in the British. Is it the British Museum? It's actually.
We've got most things in there, haven't we? To be fair, we've nicked it.
We've stolen most.
Stolen most.
It landed in our hands. It was.
Yeah, it's landed on our
hands. You guys heard about Rosetta Stone? Yeah. I got that right, didn't I?
Me being naive, I guess.
You don't know when it was found, or
no, I don't remember.
Okay.
Well, similar to your story about the black shadowy dogs, that's the next thing on my list. So, just shortly after lockdown, this is an interesting story, guys. Buckle yourselves in, right? So I started seeing this girl whose name we need a name for her. Esmeralda. I started seeing this girl called Esmeralda, right? During lockdown, previous to lockdown, she'd been living with a work colleague, absolutely opposite our building here. He had been taken ill. He was much older than her, and he'd died, basically. So when we first met, after a couple of weeks, she was stricken with grief for this former work colleague that she used to live with. And she kind of called things off for me. She said, I'm not in the headspace to... I was thinking, bloody good excuse. Knocked me on the edge, coming out of this thing. Anyway, she came back down the line kind of thing. Anyway...
Give her the benefit of the doubt, why didn't you?
Give her the benefit of the doubt. Anyway, a couple of weeks later, we kind of reconnected, and she was saying, I went to a seance the other day. That the lady put us in contact with Len. Probably shouldn't have used his name, should I? I'll have to edit that out.
Larry.
Esmeralda.
Larry.
Put us in contact with Larry. And I was thinking, of course. And she goes, no, I've got a recording of the woman that did the recording. She sent a recording to us. And she played it to me. And she was like literally going, I've got Larry with me now, and he's got a question for you. Is Esmeralda? Is that what I said the name was? And the question was, who's John? I was like, what? And she's like, yeah. And then the medium said in the room, does anyone know anyone called John? And Esmeralda lied and said, no, I don't know what you're on about. But she sent this thing to me. She said, how freaky is that? That night, the previous night, I'd had a dream, right? Check out this dream. So you were like this. It was I was watching a gymnast bouncing along and then bouncing off on these. They're called clothes horses. Those when they bounce and they flip over the top of them, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a horse.
In my dream, I was
I don't know. Maybe you're watching one with a clothes horse. I've got no idea.
They called some kind of horse.
It's a horse. It's a horse. Or the vault.
A vaulting horse.
It a vault.
Anyway, I was watching these gymnasts go over this in my dream, and then this one woman flipped and landed on her back, and I was going, oh no, she's hurt. So I went over to see this woman. I looked down, and it was this gymnast called Suzanne Danda. I don't know if you remember Suzanne Danda.
Yeah.
She was a famous gymnast, and then she went to become a famous TV presenter, but she hadn't been on our screens for about 25 years or whatever. And I remember she'd bent over backwards, this Suzanne Danda. I was like, I need to save you, like we need to get you to London straight away. And I was like looking around, there wasn't anyone, so I picked her up, scooped her, and then we went to there was a canal, and I put her on this barge, this canal, and I was like, right, we need to get to London. So we were on this canal, and then we got to a fork in the canal, and then I wasn't sure whether to go left or whether to go right. But there was a shadowy figure who was like the Grim Reaper there, and it was a man with a beard, and I said, look, I need to get Suzanne Dando to London straight away. She's hurt her back, she's going to be in danger. And this bloke said, it's down, the quickest way is that way. So I went right to this thing, woke up, didn't think anything of it, and then she at the funeral, she showed me a picture of this Len, and this, I said his name again, haven't I?
Larry.
She showed me a picture.
She showed me a picture of this Larry, and I was like, that's him. That's the guy in my dream that pointed in the canal, like to go that way, kind of thing. And I said, how freaky would it be if Suzanne Danda has the same birthday as Len? Not only the same birthday.
Sorry.
Larry, Len.
Same birthday as Larry.
Wants to be known.
What are you saying about? Yeah, he was a double barrel name. His name was Larry Len. Okay.
Hang on, Len, are you with us?
Len, are you with us now? Stop making me call you Len and let me call you Larry instead. Larry, are you with us now? Stop making us call you Len. Anyway, I said how freaky it would be if Suzanne Danda had the same birthday as Larry. Not only did he have the same birthday, the same date of birth as well, the exact day that he was born. And why was I dreaming of Suzanne Danda, who I hadn't seen on a TV screen for 25 years?
Yeah,
and this dream, and then Larry, nearly said it again, was the guy in the dream saying you need to go that way to get to London quick. How freaky is that? Yeah. So I believe in other stuff after that. There's no way that could have been a coincidence. Why am I thinking of Suzanne Danda after 25 years? And she was a gymnast as well. And then why is Larry in my dream? And then why is he saying, who's John in the spirit world?
You know, there's a theory about dreams in Christianity that the dreams are just put there by a demon. There's a certain demon that controls your dreams. And because demons can travel around the world, you know, instantly and know so much, they can put into your dream whatever they want. So then, of course, you're like, you see, I dreamt it came true. But they put a tiny bit of truth and the rest is all lies.
Yeah.
One theory they have.
So I need to be wary of Larry or Len buzzing around my bedroom, is that what you're saying? Putting these warped dreams in my head. You. Anyway, just to cut a long story short, we didn't end up staying together and we split up. And last night she'd blocked me on my phone. Yeah, because we were going to go for a walk and she wanted to go for a meal. And I was like, I don't really want to go for a meal. And then we had a minor tiff and then she blocked me on everything. And that's the end of that one. Oh. All's well that ends well.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Yes. Yeah, that was a long
Seems
time
ago. Seems a bit over the top.
I know, doesn't it just?
Well, I don't know the details, but...
Yeah. She probably got bored listening to his dreams.
Me whittering on about Len and Larry. I can remember my Lens and my Larrys, and she got bored of my dreams all the time. You're right. So that was my freaky story. Has anyone got any funny coincidence stories along those lines? Ghosty kind of stories?
Oh, man.
Jack has got one, I can tell. It's whether he tells it. Does it involve fish and chips in Bristol and
what?
Eating fish and chips in Bristol?
I don't know. I'm not right at the top of my mind.
Thinking you must have got a couple, like apart from the dog, the 5 Black Dogs. That'd be a good band name, that wouldn't it? Because the Black Dog is another name for depression as well. And the 5 Black Dogs. Yeah. There's a 9 Black Alps as a band called. Any other funny, weird, coincidental stories like that you want to share? That you don't want to share that I'm coaxing out of you at the moment.
Not that I can share. Not that I wish to share.
Okay, yeah. That's probably the more pertinent way of putting it.
When we were like 15 years old, and they were experiment with those boards, the
Ouija boards.
Ouija boards.
Oh yeah.
And there was an older. I mean, we were like 15, 16 years old, and she was like 18, and she knew about that. Supposedly,
yeah.
And at one point, there was a spirit, you know.
Was it Len? Larry? I've done it again.
I didn't ask his name or her name. Anyway, and you know, when I don't know if you are aware of Ouija board, you have to.
I've had a go.
Yeah.
On one,
Okay. So it was the time to leave.
Yeah.
So it has to go to a certain place to say, yes, I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
Didn't want to do it. And after like 4 or 5 minutes, there were some plates that they started flying around the room.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the last thing I remember because I was the first one going outside.
That's the last thing you remember because you were running for the door.
And these plates are flying.
I was running for my life, actually.
Yeah, I bet you thought you were at the time, eh? Running for yourself.
I was running like hell, you know.
Yeah. Blimey, I bet I don't blame you. I bet you never went back to that place, did you?
No.
Yeah, we went on a Ouija board, me and my friends. I never went back to the bloke's house again. I was like, it's hard to tell when you're a teenager whether it's just one of your mates titting around or whether it's genuine. But Sonia, have you ever had to go on a Ouija board?
No, but I remember when I was younger, when I was about sort of 7 or 8, I was quite worried about witches and magic and all of that kind of fun.
Oh! Freudian slip there.
The truth comes first. That's why
you were interested in it, eh?
And but I remember my father giving me a really great piece of advice, which is, you know, it's not the dead you need to be worried about, it's the living. And it's absolutely true.
I'm with your dad.
Absolutely true. So that's kind of help. But there have been some coincidences in my life, and I remember the one that sticks out in my head was, how can I tell you the short version of this? My mother hadn't been. This was a few years ago, back in 2012. My mother hadn't been very well, and I'd had to take her to hospital. And I went back to her flat to get her a few things. And I remember filling up with fuel at the petrol station. And I don't know whether you know, but in Chinese kind of society,
philosophy.
Yeah, they find the number 4 is really unlucky.
Is it?
Because when you say the word, it's similar to the word meaning death.
Yeah.
So they consider 4 unlucky. So anyway, on the way back to the hospital, I decided to stop off at the petrol station to fill up with fuel.
Yeah.
So I got to,
pump number 4.
Yeah. No, I didn't actually. I made a point of going somewhere else. And so I filled up, and I went to, you just fill up and you pay with your credit card. You don't take any notice. And I looked at it, and the price was £44.44.
Oh, no.
And I thought, oh, God. I mean, sadly, it was terminal and she did die. But, it did make me think, oh, gosh, is that
That was the moment that she passed away?
No.
Dun,
No.
dun, dun.
No, she lasted much. She was only given sort of 2 to 3 months, but she lasted 9 months in the end.
It sounds like a story that you're useless at the petrol pump. You're trying to get it on 50 and
no,
44, so.
I just kept going.
But do you believe in
up.
Chinese?
I do
beliefs?
try and avoid the number 4. I always have done, and I know 8 is supposed to be very lucky.
But why only in the Chinese? I mean, you don't go into the Nordic, or you.
No,
or
I haven't. No, I haven't really investigated it.
I'm sure you could find that every number's
probably. There's all
bad
sorts
in
of things.
one kind of culture. Yeah. In China, they're not allowed that many children, are they? So maybe that's another reason.
Oh, that's different. That's going back to Jack's.
What's that, sorry?
So they're limited to the number of children they can have in China, but that's because.
What happens if they have another
They've
child?
stopped that now, haven't they? They
recently
just stopped that last year, wasn't it?
Was that only last year?
They're only allowed
so.
one child.
One child?
Yeah.
They weren't. They were allowed more, but it's to do with the money from the
tax
state.
breaks.
They get
and
money.
Stuff. They only get paid for one, do they? Or
yeah.
Oh wow.
So it encourages you to only have one, but they stopped it last year. I think it was.
We had a Chinese lodger at one point, and he had a younger brother, in fact, but that's because he had a small disability himself, which meant that I think half of his body didn't quite obey his commands, basically. So for that reason, he was allowed to. Imagine how that makes him feel. Like I'm not. Yeah. I can't be the single.
No, exactly. I remember seeing a documentary about it because it was probably a Panorama thing. And this was years and years ago, and they were talking about because so many families only had one child, and so the parents and the grandparents all doted on this child, and they'd become really obnoxious. They'd been given everything, all the best clothes and, the best education they could and everything. And it was like a nation of spoilt children were being sort of brought up. So, but I suppose you can't help it if you're the only child.
You've never known any different, have you? You're just a creature of your environment.
Yeah,
but then that happens with families that have 2 or 3 children. They're still all spoiled. Different families, not all of them. But
isn't the only child thing a bit of a myth? Only child syndrome.
No, I was talking specifically about the Chinese thing, where they were only, as you say, only encouraged to have one child.
Let's use a teacher analogy, Jack. If you've got a class full of 12 people, you can't give them all as much attention. If you had one child in your class, could you say the single child is going to get more attention and more focus on them and more earache and more grief because you're constantly
not necessarily a bad thing though. It depends on how what attention you give them, doesn't it?
Yeah, that depends on the individual. And there's so many randoms.
Do you think the character of a child can be moulded, or it's born nature over nurture here? Do you think your daughter, for instance, do you think she was always that character, or she kind of grew up in her environment to become that character?
I'll tell you my opinion. I think we have, let's say, 5 pillars since we were born. And in those pillars, it depends on what kind of things we're getting from the other family, the society around us. We are building up more levels, if you like. Because I like to visualizing things, so I give that example.
like foundations.
Yeah, you have. I mean, as soon as you're born, you have certain foundations, if you like, or columns, as I call them. But then, what is building up, is the rest. I mean, it's the society, the environment, the family, school.
Yeah, how much of the columns are fed into and stimulated and restricted. And
Suzuki's example is, if Beethoven had lived in the Stone Age, he wouldn't have been Beethoven.
No,
he wouldn't be. He would be very much like a Stone Age person.
Well, they often use the analogy of think of how many people with Einstein's intelligence, they would have been born and died in the cotton fields. They never had the opportunity to go to school or
100%. I think so.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So you're definitely a creature of your environment.
I think what's an interesting question is, why do we tend to believe that things are innate and that it's to do with genes? And I wonder if it has to do with privilege and those who have the privilege thinking that they're somehow
they tend
special.
to be given more opportunities, don't they?
If two intelligent people were to have a child, does it necessarily mean that the child's going to be intelligent?
But we have to define what we mean by intelligent.
True.
I mean, are we talking about a random IQ test?
Yeah,
are we talking about they've read a lot?
Academically.
Do we put intelligence to do with academic?
Yeah.
Just because they can write a paper and then get a good mark by the person who decides to give them the good mark?
If two academically clever people have a child, would that child automatically be academically clever? Because of its genealogy and its upbringing as well.
But it has to do with... Like, how do you get good at something? This is that book, Mastery, and others. Like, what is it what are the conditions that make someone incredibly good at what they do? Is that something that they're just born with? And he amongst many others argue that it's a myth, and it works both ways actually, because if we're not a genius, if we're not a master at something, then we tend to objectify that as belonging to someone else. It's not me. I can never approach that level of skill. It's a story you're telling yourself that allows you to, that's the idea anyway. And the argument would be, if you want to get good at something, the only way to get good at it is to persevere.
Do it, yeah.
And it comes down to really a question of whether you are putting that time and effort in or not. Okay, well, what you could ask, what are the conditions that provide that desire to, a stable childhood would probably help. Self-belief cultivated by a loving, supportive atmosphere. Obviously, that's not a necessity. There are people who don't have that and still thrived, but it probably helps. And I think
on the flip side of that, people that don't have that use it as a motivation to motivate themselves to climb the ladder.
Maybe. But again, I think
we don't know what they would have achieved if they did have that.
They didn't have that. Yeah.
I mean, we never know.
Fair comparison is because you didn't.
What's that?
You don't know. For example, you have a child, and you are from an unprivileged family, and you have to work from as soon as you finish school, So you don't have the same potentials. I mean, you might have all the
opportunities, maybe.
Yes, like for example, you might be amazing in music. If you don't have the instrument, or if you don't have someone to tell you, try that.
Yeah,
you might have the ability.
Yes.
But you don't get a chance to show it or to practice or to.
I don't know. Let's say might be good in athletics or in football or in something. Yeah. But if you don't have the means, if you're not privileged enough to try things, how would you know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But also nature overcomes stuff. If you had a kid who grew up in Brazil, he couldn't afford football boots. All his mates could afford football boots, but because he didn't have football boots, he learnt to kick a ball differently, and then that became a positive instead of a negative, didn't it? That if he'd have had football boots, he wouldn't have learned to kick the ball in that way, and he wouldn't have become Maradona, for example. If he had a football, he wouldn't have learned with an orange, and his skill set wouldn't have been improved by his disadvantages. So it's a bit like you're saying, you don't know if he wouldn't have gone in and done that, even if he'd have had a football instead of an orange, because there's not two Maradonas growing up, one with an orange and one with a football, so you can never truly have a true comparison, can you?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
People always say to me, I've been tough growing up because my parents split up. I said, well, I didn't know it any other way. It wasn't like I'd grown up to 18 with parents and I went back to like 12 and thought, I will go again, and this time I'll do it with parents that split up. That was my normality. That was my, it's normal life for me. It wasn't tough because that was normal kind of, life. It's not like you haven't got a direct comparison like Emma's saying to like go back and there's not a John that grew up with two parents that were together and a John that grew up without two parents together. So it is what it is. Thus concludes another action-packed, stat-filled, review-filled, theory-filled. We've covered lots, haven't we? Lots of nonsense. Thanks to Len, Larry, and everyone that joined us. And what was her name?
Wherever
Esmeralda?
they may be.
Yeah.
My ex-girlfriend Esmeralda. Wherever you may be now. You wouldn't be able to hear me because you blocked me and everything, so hello out there.
I thought you were going to say she wouldn't be able to hear you.
She won't be able to hear me.
I thought you meant because of the bells. Esmeralda. Bells.
What are you saying about me?
Oh, no.
And on that note, thus concludes another episode of the Friends2Gether podcast. Let's go around the room and say our goodbyes. So, Jack.
That's goodbye for me.
EJ.
Thank you, goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.
And Sonia.
Cheerio, everybody. Take good care.
Goodbye, everybody. Speak to you next time.
Very good.
Goodbye. Very good. Look at that review from Jack at the end. Very good.
Very good.
We'll put that on the podcast reviews. Very good. Quote from Jack. Yeah. Now we're finished.
The Let's Be Frank podcast is brought to you by the Oasis Partnership, a charity providing high-quality social and psychological support services to improve people's mental health and well-being. We deliver socially inclusive, open access support for the wider communities of Buckinghamshire through pioneering and innovative partnerships and initiatives. Oasis provides free and subsidised health and wellbeing classes and support groups for the Chiltern area, including mindfulness, yoga, fitness, art and music. Oasis also helps support people to reach their full potential through our substance misuse treatment service, Routes to Work and outreach service. The Oasis Substance Misuse Treatment Service is provided in partnership with Inclusion, part of Midlands Partnership NHS Foundation Trust, delivering one recovery bucks. The Let's Be Frank podcast was launched in tribute to the memory of long-term Oasis patron and world-renowned cinematographer Frank Hodge, and is recorded in the Frank Hodge Podcast Studio, our new community podcasting facility launched in his honour.